I thought today we could get started with symbolic exponential family therapy, made by none other than Carl Whitaker. I've had some requests from people saying like they struggle with understanding this model. So if everybody's been paying attention, I try my best to make the models have like a flow with how I explain them. And the way that I learned how to do that was actually from Volini's book. So thank you, Volini, for making this much easier for me to understand it and also making it easy for me to teach it to others. This is one of the models where it comes with a lot of information, but the information that you receive is more like, okay, well, I can be me. I can still be me and still be a therapist, right? And not worry about interventions and things of that nature. So let's go ahead and take a deep dive into it, right? So this is the role of a therapist. Now, Carl Whitaker believed that please don't use a textbook when you're working with the clients or the families. Don't use a textbook. The therapist is an artist or a healer is how he described it. But then he also took on a grandparent role where he was temporarily the one that's loving the children and he's nurturing them. The same way like he did with the families, right? He believed in a therapist being authentic. That is you being you being who you are. And that is also what he wanted his families and his clients to also understand. Be who you are, right? He moved away from the whole symptom relief thing to healing attributes while also being that nurturer in the family and also paying attention to those that has growth, paying attention to those that are now being more like themselves instead of denying who they are. Again, no textbook. Get out of the textbook if you want to be a symbolic exponential family therapist. He also used a co-therapist, and the co-therapist was simply used for because at some point, like I said, he takes a grandparent role. So that means that, oh, well, are we going to be doing some transference, right? But the co-therapist is there to kind of like help with that, right? The co-therapist is not for the family. They're more like for themselves. You know, there's the therapist and then there's the co-therapist working with each other. More like for themselves, not for the family per se, right? Monitoring like the transference between the symbolic therapist and the family. So now there are a lot of key terms for symbolic family therapy, a whole lot of key terms. Try to keep up with me. Don't read what's on the screen if you don't have to. Just listen to what I'm saying because I'm going to try my best to go through it as I possibly can and teach it in a way that you are going to be able to obtain clarity and understanding. Person of the therapist, that is you as a therapist, authentic, genuine, real with their clients. I am myself as a therapist. I don't have to read anything from this book that's going to teach me how to do it because I am going to be myself. Therapy of the absurd, that's the spontaneous process. It's a lot of things that are just unrecognizable. So if you're a symbolic therapist, you're just doing some stuff that is like, that's not textbook and it's not meant to be textbook, right? You're probably doing some silly stuff in there with your client, doing some stuff that the client is just like, God, what's wrong with you? Because I'm a firm, I do it all the time. Like, let's, how about we do this? Let's stand up. Let's do some Pilates right now in therapy or whatever. Like you say you want to do it. Let's just do it right now. It's spontaneous type things, right? So then you also have the individuation, right? Members should be more of who they are. Don't be like anybody else. You don't need to be like your cousin. You don't need to be like your nephew over here. Be who you are. That is what he really was big on. Two of the major key terms for symbolic therapy is the battle for structure and the battle for initiative. Now, the battle for structure that's the therapist in charge. The therapist is going to tell you, I need this many people in therapy. You know, I need this whole family. I need 2 generations, and I want them now. I will not bend on that. This is who I need. This is who I want. So you better bring them to me, right? And then the battle for initiative, that's the family taking responsibility for the changes, for the growth, for the processing they're going to make. It is now your turn to do that. The therapist did what they were supposed to do. I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing with you. Now it's your turn to take the lead on that, right? And then we have those fantasy alternative things, right? What if? Even through those stressful situations, what if? What if you could do this differently? What if this happens? What if this does not happen? It's like, what if doing those situations that are just like, oh, I cannot believe this is happening to me. Well, what if you did this? What if you could do this type thing? And then there's that therapeutic double bind. That's that contradicting messages, right? The whole damned if you do, damned if you don't. Right? There's many, many examples to the therapeutic double bind. We have the bilateral pseudotherapy. At some point, Carl Whitaker is like, you know what? Why don't you all be your own therapist? Be your own therapist. You've learned enough from me. Be your own therapist. See how it works. See what you can do with that. But then sometimes if the therapist is like, well, this is not working, I need to take back over again. And then the symbolic therapist will take back over. And then there's that transference, the bilateral transference that I was talking about, adapting the language, accent, rhythm. They become a grandparent at some point, nurturing, loving for the children that's in the family. And then there's one of the best things about symbolic therapy is that fight towards health. When that family doesn't come back, when that family stops taking phone calls from the therapist, or the family stops checking in, the therapist is reaching out and the family doesn't reach out anymore. Carl Whitaker believed that meant that they're fine. They can do this on their own. The problems that they had or whatever is gone, and they don't need me anymore. That's the flight towards help. The family abruptly just stops coming to therapy. Right? Let's go to the assessment phase. So the beginning of therapy, it always starts with that phone call. That's the battle for structure. That is him. That's Carl Whitaker telling you that you need to be demanding that the entire family is present. That's the battle for structure, right? And then symbolic therapists also looked at the extended family, the subsystem, the emotional age. Does it match with their chronological age? The way that they're behaving. Does this match with how old they actually are? And then it's a lot of the dyadic collusions that's going on, or it's the triadic collusions that's going on. Who's mad at who's upset with who, why is all the arguing and stuff happening? We need to assess that. We need to look at that. This is not a theory for diagnosing. He simply believes that every family is diagnosed with a therapeutic double bind. It's a relational diagnosis. It's not going anywhere. It never leaves. So even if you are stuck in this therapeutic double bind, then you got to find a way to work with it. But at the same time, be you while you do it. Now, here it is. Who's involved? All members of the family. I need 2 generations is what Carl Whitaker said. And if you can't give me 2 generations and you can't give me the whole family, then I guess you don't want to have therapy with me. That's how Carl Whitaker saw it. He will refuse to see parts of the family. Bring me the whole generation. Weekly sessions, 6 months to 2 years. And it can be lower than that. And I'll explain that too. At any given moment during therapy, that family does not have to keep coming. So after this, maybe 5-6 months, you don't want to come anymore, then just don't come anymore, right? So then the goals of therapy. There are so many goals of therapy for symbolic-experiential therapy, but these are some of the main ones that I wanted to kind of like point out, the main ones that kind of like sum up everything, right? So one of the main goals that we're going to talk about is the belongingness to the family. Again, we want you to be a part of your family system, but you can also be an individual, right? Kind of like when you look at Bowen, right? We want you to be a part of the system. We want you to be close to each other, but still be an individual, be who you are. And when you do that, you can work on increasing that creative expression, because a symbolic therapist wants you to express yourself the way that you want to express yourself. And then you work through it. Each member work towards being more of themselves. I cannot say that enough. This is not about somebody else. Symbolic therapy is like, this is about you. I want you to be you, right? I want this family to learn how to play with one another, be creative with one another, be authentic with one another, be genuine with one another, right? And I put up there, increasing stress levels. Why, Carl? Like, why do we need to increase stress levels? Ain't that family got enough stress as it is? But I guess at the same time, like, as a family, who said that there would never be stress, right? So as a family, we increase these stress levels. Now we're going to work through how we are going to get through these stress levels together as a part of the family. Families should also appreciate that you are a system. You are a system. You are one unit together, working towards what? Getting out of therapy. That's like the main goal. We are a whole system together. We're going to learn how to play with each other. But at the same time, we're going to be individuals. We don't have to be like one another. We can be close with each other, but we can also be individuals working towards the flight of health. We're all trying to get out of therapy, right? That's the goal. So then some of the interventions, there are no like set in stone interventions. Carl Whitaker believed that therapy really shouldn't have to have a phase. It shouldn't have to have like stages of therapy. He believed that however the session goes, that's how the session goes, right? But he was really big on empathy and personal growth, right? Because at any given moment, once you've gained that growth that you've been looking for, there you can leave therapy if you want to, right? And he also believed that children should be treated like children. The children should not be taking on that parent role. That's his job. Carl Whitaker would take on that job. Okay, well, I don't want these kids to think they're parents. I can temporarily take on that grandparent role so that the kid can be a kid, that the child can still be a kid and be treated like a kid, right? Tickling the defenses. This is a term that I have seen in like many answer responses, and I used to be like, what does that even mean, right? So we're penetrating that unconscious. We are tickling some of those defense mechanisms that we may have. And Carl Whitaker would do like personal confrontations with his clients. Like, hey, well, you said last week that this is what you're going to do. So what happened, And this is him tickling those defenses. This is him. I'm probing this unconscious here. Now I'm taking jabs at you. So you better be prepared, right? And he would also model the fantasy alternatives that you can have. You have all this stuff that's going on with you, but what if you would have done what you were supposed to do? What if you hadn't done this, right? Modeling those fantasy alternatives. There are no true interventions. There aren't any that's just like set in stone that you can do, because again, you are genuine, you are authentic. Whatever you think is going to work with the family, work with the family on it. Have them be creative, play with the family, have fun with the family. Those are also interventions. So again, he didn't really believe in phases of therapy. He didn't. So the early phase is going to be that phone call, battle for structure, battle for initiative. Hey, give me 2 generations. Okay, y'all I did what I was supposed to do. Now it's y'all turn. Take the responsibility, take accountability for what's going on, right? And the middle phase is just reorganizing the symptoms that you have. Hey, I'm hearing that you're saying that you're struggling with anxiety, you're struggling with depression, you're struggling with the kids arguing with each other. Now we just need some reorganization. But while we're doing that, we are going to be what? Authentic. We're going to be creative, and we are going to let the children be children, right? Late phase. The family is now can be their own therapist, because now it's kind of like, okay, well, are you guys ready to go now? Do you guys kind of like have it down? Do you know what it is that you need to do to operate as a mobile milieu unit, right? And at any given moment in these phases of therapy, the flight of health can happen. You can leave whenever you get ready to, and that symbolic therapist is not going to be like, hey, don't you need to check in? Hey, don't you want to come back? They're not going to do that, because that tells him that you're operating as a milieu therapy unit. But still, be creative, be authentic, be yourself, and work through the things that you have going on. But you're going to do it, and you're going to have fun while you do it. That's all Carl Whitaker was about. He was just he's this fun person. He's spontaneous. He's allowed to be the person in the room that is going to draw all of the creativeness from you, because you've been trying to hide it for so long, when it's okay to be yourself. You don't have to be like anybody else, because in a therapy room with a symbolic therapist, you can be you and not be judged. That's the best part about it. I should practice. I should do it too. As silly, as crazy as I am sometimes. And he wanted to be absurd. He was spontaneous with things. Hey, you say you wanted to do this. Hey, drop down, give me 50 push-ups. I don't know. Like, okay, hey, let's go throw a football with each other, or I don't know, let's go walk to the corner store and get some ice cream. Spontaneous. That's how I picture it. But yes, the therapist is an artist or a healer, healing some of those attributes that you feel that was just like some negative feeling that would hold you down. Artist, a healer. He's the battles for initiative and the battle for structure. His goals of therapy is laundry list long, but that comes with you being able to draw that creative expression from that family, right? He really didn't believe in the phases of therapy. Like I said, it's more like it's spontaneous. Be who you are with the family, and the family will then be who they want to be, right? So, all right, leave a comment, leave some notes or anything, send me a message. Let me know how you're feeling about this model. I hope I was able to explain it in a way that is easy for you to understand, because I know it can be pretty hard when you're kind of like trying to read it from the book and it's like a long passages. So I just summed them all up for you and put the information together that this model is fun. This model is very authentic, genuine, and active. So keep that in mind. Remember those words when it comes to symbolic exponential family therapy.